Just gonna get my lighting right.
I've got the city councilwoman on my podcast on Wednesday. Rebeca, Armendariz, and then a lady that runs the fireworks accountability group on Nextdoor.
Are we still trying to?
I've got both of them on my podcast. We're going to debate all this stuff. Right? That's Wednesday.
Good luck. There ain't no stopping it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so far out
I'm
of control.
like, you know what?
They got some nice ones.
Oh yeah. There's the drone. Right there.
Oh yeah.
There's the drone.
It's a plane way out there.
That could be.
Yeah. Oh wow. They put out a hell of a sound.
Yes, they do.
All
I
right,
love
dude.
it. All right, man. Happy 4th. From WSLN, the Weathered Soul Liberty Network, based in Gilroy, California, the garlic capital of the world, we give you the Weathered Soul podcast with DJ Dougie and Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul. Stay with us for the next hour for intriguing conversation about our community, Gilroy, the South Bay, national scene, and even stuff around the world. So give us a little time and we will entertain you. Well, I hope you liked our new intro because that's the first time that Dougie's seen it. And we are here live at HAM Studios here in Gilroy, California. First Note Productions brings you the Weathered Soul podcast, the best podcast that you've never heard of. We welcome you here. Thank you for being here. Dougie, how you doing, bud?
Good. The audio was good. It was fantastic on that. Nice and crisp and kicking pow, poops. Oh, man.
Well, I'm learning how to do all kinds of things on this podcast, and I'm really excited tonight because I have a fantastic show for everybody now because I've got my first city council member from Gilroy on my podcast, Rebeca Armendariz, and I hope I said her name right, but it's going to be a fantastic show. We're going to talk about one of the hotbed issues that are going on in Gilroy, not only before 4th of July, but on 4th of July and after 4th of July, kind of what every kind of hit holiday that we hit on. And we're going to actually get into it real quick. Me and Dougie will do our regular monologue and what we did, during the weekend after we get done interviewing Rebeca. We were supposed to have Susan Sheehan from the Fireworks Accountability Group at Nextdoor, but she was unable to attend with us tonight. She has gladly answered some of the questions that I was going to ask Rebeca Armendariz on the podcast, and we're just happy that you're here, and we're going to be able to at least represent Susan with her answers to the questions. And I want to let you guys know that you can listen to the audio podcast on anchor.fm. Just go to anchor.fm // the Weathered Soul podcast, and you can grab us there, or on any of your podcast catchers, you can catch us, the Weathered Soul podcast. Just hit follow, give us a 5-star review, leave a comment. We're just excited about where this podcast is going, and we just love you to be here. And then also, if you'd like to be a guest, a sponsor, and we do live appearances at your establishment. We will come out, we will do a podcast at your establishment on the day you want us to. All you have to do is drop us an email at info@weatheredsoul.com. And we're going to get right into this podcast, and we want to introduce to you our city council member, Rebeca Armendariz, right?
You got it. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Pick up the price, but you got it.
I've been working on that all week, and
Good job.
it's been one of those things that we've been doing. I want to welcome you to the podcast, city council member. I am so happy that you're here. You're the first one to be on our podcast as far as a real figure in the city, and I think it's really important that a podcast that deals with local issues has their representatives on, so that we can all talk face to face, one to one, and be able to have our voices heard. And the one thing that I'm trying to get through in this podcast, and we discussed this before, was the fact that I wanted the citizens of Gilroy to make an impact at the city council meetings, to be able to know that they're getting through to you, instead of, doing their little blurbs on Facebook, Nextdoor, Twitter, other social media, things like that, because it's very easy to go ahead and gripe about issues on these social media sites, but it's not very hard to get to your city council meeting. And I tell you right now, I'm one of those ones that want to do that, and I'm driving it forward. And I want to thank you for being here, Rebeca. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and the city council right now?
Well, first, thank you and Doug for inviting me. I do feel honored and thankful to have been invited and to be part of your broadcast for our community. I agree with you that it is really important and easier than ever. Honestly, it really is easier than ever to access our city council meetings, to be part, to listen. Some of the things can be a bit esoteric or parliamentary, and people don't understand the procedures. But if there's an issue that's important to you, no matter what you say or how you express it, it's going to be heard. And it's important to dial in, to show up, and to be heard, and to express that. And so I appreciate your efforts to getting folks off of the social media warrior status and into city council, into our city council meetings and other meetings. So like you said, I'm a city council member for Gilroy. Gilroy is my hometown. I'm born and raised here. My family's been here for 5 generations, including my kids. Wow. And I'm really proud of my community and how our community helps each other, how we have grown and tried to take measured steps in growth. I was part of the Measure H Urban Growth Boundary founders and chair of the committee to pass Measure H. I'm really proud of that. This is my first term on the city council, but I've been involved with my community since I was really young. And so I felt like this was the next step, right, to be a council person from my role on the planning commission, because many times the policies or items that we passed at planning commission or that we rejected would go to council and be overturned. And so that was really incredibly frustrating, being, a representative of my community on the planning commission, to have our voice, many times it was unanimous, be overturned by city council. And I didn't sit right with me. And so I decided to join up in city council and take a seat there. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, yeah, we welcome you here and thank you for that introduction. It's just, like I said, it's an honor to have you guys on. I do know a couple other city council members. I rub shoulders with Maria every once in a while. So and you've seen me at the meetings before, and you've seen me at the video meetings. I'm going to make my presence known only because of the fact that I want to be in touch with what's going on with Gilroy right now. I've invited Dougie a couple of times. We'll see, when and if he can come. I mean, one of us will be there to make our voices heard on whatever issue that we have going on. And I just really appreciate you being here. And like I said, unfortunately, the Susan Sheehan could not be here today. She is a leader on a Nextdoor group called Fireworks Accountability. And I'm just going to open up with her statement here real quick before we get to the questions. And she said, "Thank you, Bruce McGee, for this opportunity to discuss illegal fireworks in the city of Gilroy. It's greatly appreciated. In our Gilroy community, safe and sane fireworks sales are permitted during July or during the 4th of July period. Many of our local nonprofit organizations rely on the sales of these fireworks as a means of fundraising. In fact, my nonprofit organization, A Circle of Warriors, may apply to have safe and sane fireworks booth in 2022. We have no problem with this as long as it is a responsible adult handling the fireworks, ensuring that no sparks ignite a fire, especially during this time of severe drought. We want the city of Gilroy to review and revise the illegal fireworks ordinance, and we believe that penalties for possession and use of illegal fireworks should be prohibitive and substantial, enough to be a deterrent. I think that the penalties for the first offense should be $10,000 and 30 days in jail. Second offense should be $20,000 and 60 days in jail. And the third offense being $50,000 and 6 months in jail. We wish for Gilroy to be a peaceful and safe and desirable place to call home. And that is from Susan Sheehan from the Fireworks Accountability. And we thank her for her opening statement there. And we're just going to go right. Do you have any rebuttals to that real quick?
Right. Well, I like her, I'm on the board and a founding member of GODUS, is a local nonprofit. And we had a fireworks booth in the past, and we plan on having one in the future. So I'm partial towards the safe and sane fireworks, just full disclosure.
No problem.
And many friends and, community members and youth that I know rely on the fireworks sales for our wrestling teams, our football teams, PAL and the high schools, the cheerleaders, right? Pop Warner, all that stuff. And so I see them as two separate issues. I really do. I think, it's apples and oranges to me, except in that the assessment fee that the Safe and Sane fireworks booths pay to the city pays for our extra fire and police and drone and everything else that we call on 4th of July. So the fees that the legal fireworks sales pay to the city, pay to mitigate the cost of illegal fireworks. I don't, that math doesn't work right for me, right? Like, folks who are doing things the right way are having to pay for. But if that's the structure that was set, and it seems to be working, then I'm okay with it, as long as we don't increase the fees, because it's already a substantial amount that the nonprofits pay back to the city.
Right.
For illegal, behavior that they have no control over. But but on the flip side, to address what Susan is asking for, I think, I don't believe in criminalizing people more, right? I do believe that they're engaging in some illegal behavior. There should be fines, right? That would make it prohibitive, right? So if you are afraid of a fine, a substantial fine, then you won't do this. I think 10,000 is a bit much. It's too low right now, right? It doesn't, and people don't know about the fines because very few fines are handed out. And if we ask our police officers to play whack-a-mole, right, on the night of the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th, when people are lighting off a firework here and then there and then here and then there, even with the help of the drone, we've seen that it's such a large area and so sporadic that it's impossible. You really are like playing whack-a-mole, right? It's coming out here, it's coming out there, you're aiming here and there, for our officers to drive around like, a wild goose chase. It's unrealistic to think that they're going to catch a good amount of people. And then, so no matter how much the fine would be, it's not going to be a deterrent. I wish that we could find the sweet spot and not put people in jail for this, for using them, but do create a hefty penalty, right? That would deter them. And I don't think the answer, like I said, is putting people in jail for it, just for using them. But something, I'm not sure if you watched the city council meeting, but something that I proposed is trying to stem the flow of fireworks into our community.
Yeah,
we don't make them in Gilroy. We don't make them in California. They are brought here from other places, right? China, Mexico, like they're brought in from places where they're legal. So I proposed a regional task force to address it so that we can stop the flow of fireworks into our community.
All right. I think you're on the right track there. I mean, being as politically minded as I am, because I kind of lean towards a more libertarian standpoint on it. I am for that. It's definitely a problem in the city, but in the same token, this is a state or a county issue that needs to have a task force attached to it, as far as that's concerned. But Dougie has something to say, because I can hear him mumbling in the background there. So go ahead, Dougie.
Was it mumbling? No, but anyway,
You're rambling.
no,
Are you
it is.
hungry? Yeah.
Yeah, it is illegal to transport, fireworks across state lines without a license. It's a federal offense.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's one thing you were saying about that them being brought in. I admit, I've had fireworks before in my life. Just over the border in Arizona, I think at one of the Indian reservations is where I picked them up, and we went through the ag checkpoint at the border, and fireworks sitting right there. They didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're looking for vegetables, not for fireworks. Right? It's not their job.
Fruit flies.
Yeah. But tractor trailer loads must be coming in, of course, right, to meet the need for 4th of July.
Yeah.
And where they're distributed, I don't know. I remember when I was a kid in Connecticut, all of a sudden there'd be this mimeograph list, and you check off what you want, and then they'd say they're ready, and you go someplace with a bunch of cash, and you get a big box, and you go home. I'm sure that's the way it works here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's really hard to take.
About an hour north you travel, and you can get your truckload and come home. Yeah.
So I didn't grow up here, so I don't know all those ins and outs, but I could tell you how it works back east. Yeah, it's about the same.
All right.
But
go ahead.
No. So that's an interesting point, though, is how do you stem the influx of them, because that alone, is illegal. Possessing them and lighting them off are all further steps of that same.
Right.
That same law.
Right.
But,
So.
And I do appreciate the legal shows that we have, right? We went and we parked close to the high school, and we watched them, and I can see all the illegal shows around my house, but my aunt is almost 76 years old, and she works a swing shift. So she was prepared for 4th of July, right, to go to sleep early, get her earmuffs on. But for the 5th of July and the 6th of July, for mortars, and M1000s or whatever to be blown up, like, she has a job. She's 76 years old widow, and she has bills to pay. And folks who I think don't have bills to pay or don't have a job to go to are, don't care about that kind of stuff.
Well, that's interesting.
Right? It's
because I think that's
working people, and they just
and it goes on, and it's been going on. I mean, it used to be 4th of July, maybe the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th of July, the 4th being the biggest, big, like a bell curve, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it would go away, right? But what's been going on for the last year and a half is every night at 9:30, like somebody's signaling that the people on top of the hill or something to come down, whatever. There's flares going up, there's bombs going off. There's sometimes, and a lot of times I can tell where they're coming from, right? Because they're in they're I can see them, so I can determine where they're coming from. Bruce has the same thing over in his neighborhood. Now, when his neighborhood does theirs, I really don't hear it up at my neighborhood. When my neighborhood does theirs, he doesn't really hear it that much at his neighborhood, although you can still hear it, but it's not like rattling the windows. And then, like you said, those big, I don't know, they're bigger than M80s. Whatever's going on.
M1000s,
There's some that are bigger than that too, because there are some that make the floor shake.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I'm 15 acres away from my neighborhood, from the closest neighborhood, and they shook my windows at 4 or 5 in the morning, right before the sun came out. Yeah, and so I imagine my aunt next door, right? The same thing happened to her, and it's not fair to people who have PTSD, who have animals that are going to be affected, and like I said, to working folks who just want to have a good night's sleep so they can go to work in the morning.
Okay, well, let's get to the questions here. I got to reel this back in a little bit so I can get to a couple of questions here. So, number one is that a great big email campaign has been started by Nextdoor. They posted everybody's email address to the city council. I posted everybody's email address to the city council on my last podcast, and a big email campaign was started by basically Susan Sheehan and these people over at the Fireworks Accountability. And I want to thank them, number one, for basically being involved in your community, and hopefully that the ones that are there that are posting the most are going to the city council meetings and listening in and keeping abreast on them. So, but I want to know is that in your estimation, what is the percentage of citizens in Gilroy that are against fireworks? Because according to recent polls done by Nextdoor and Facebook, 55% want both illegal and safe and sane fireworks banned, and 25% want only illegal ban, and 20% want safe and sane only banned. So what has been your experience in city council on the amount of people that are against safe and sane fireworks? And in the same token, how many are for like decriminalization or just lift the prohibition on them?
Yeah, I'd say the minority, right? The vast minority are want safe and sane prohibited. And the same amount want to lift the prohibition on illegal fireworks. Like those are very much the least amount of people that have talked to. They want to keep the illegal ones illegal and increase fines, right? And try to figure out how to stymie the use of them after 4th of July. But most folks still support the sale of safe and sane is what in terms of the folks that I've spoken to. And many of the emails that we received from the Fireworks Accountability Group and the Nextdoor folks want to, the majority of them want to keep safe and sane legal, right? There's some, like I said, there's a few who asked to make those also illegal, safe and sane, but the vast majority wanted to keep those safe and sane legal.
Can you give us a quantity on about how many people that was that replied to these emails or actually attended a city council meeting to make their voice heard?
That actually attended?
Well, actually, number one, who attended the city council meeting? Because I know I did. And then two, how many emails actually flood into the city council about this issue?
Give me 1 second to count them up.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Only 1 second.
It took me longer, yeah.
Got the Jeopardy music on.
It won't be the whole verse, yeah. I would say about 24 at the most. 24 for the
emails. For the emails, okay. And then at the city council meeting that we had the discussion, I think it was back in June, the last one in June. How many people actually attended the city council meeting? Because I think there was 12 of us that replied, 9 or 12 of us that replied, if I remember right. But I don't know how many people were on the outskirts that didn't. There
was less than 10 people that attended. And only 3 spoke about fireworks.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I was one of them. I remember.
And a couple of the emails that we received were from nonprofits that wanted to make sure that we continued to have safe and sane legal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think everybody in Gilroy knows that they have the right to attend city council meetings?
No, they don't.
No,
I've been to, during my campaign. My first part of my campaign was to register voters. And often people ask if we're if we're in districts or if we're at large, or what area I would represent. And so I do a lot of voter education. And I said, well, you should come down and watch the meetings. Like, well, do I need a pass? Do I need an invitation to go to City Hall? And it's like, and I giggled, right? Like that's my reaction also. But I've been going to city council meetings and board meetings and Sacramento hand in hand with my mom since I was a toddler. So I never, it didn't occur to me that folks found it a place, that where they weren't welcome to attend freely, so
Yeah,
I think there's a lot more about that.
Do they know that they're allowed to give their input too at these meetings? That's another thing too. They may think they just have to sit there silently and, nothing's going to change. So why just watch a boring show? Right.
I think folks who know that they can go there know that they can speak.
Okay, good. Yeah. Because, if something is really important to someone, they should attend a city council meeting, especially if they see on the agenda that topic's coming up.
I agree.
Right. Yeah.
I agree 100%.
That's democracy.
Yeah. And they don't even have to be of our community, right? Which is something I contend with the mayor about sometimes, is that folks from out of town have the right to speak about issues that are important to them at our Gilroy City Council meetings as much as local residents do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure like developers and zoning things, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had a lot of folks call in, a lot of folks. Like I think we had 70 or 80 folks who were in attendance when we were talking about the acreage available for recreation over by Gilroy Gardens. And the majority of them were from out of town, but they were calling in to say, I am from out of town. I support, X project for, I think, mountain biking, and if you build it, we will come and visit and we will spend money there and spend time there. Right. Mm-hmm. So it was great. But a couple of my fellow council members didn't want to hear their input and asked if we had to hear their input.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, you did.
That got my ire up.
Yeah. There's a thing called democracy. And so I encourage folks all the time to call in, to pay attention. I try to reach out to folks if an issue is going to affect them, whether I agree with it or not. I think that folks should be, it's part of our job to outreach to our communities and,
how else are you going to know what? Yeah,
right.
How else are you going to know? Right. Yeah.
And you'll hear me sometimes asking questions to be spoken in layman's terms, right? I'll be the devil's advocate, or I'll interpret something in simpler language so that the community that is paying attention can understand, without using that kind of, Robert's rules and such.
Okay, well, let's talk resources here, because I'm in the group that says you can't put a police officer or a peace officer at every corner during the 4th of July to make sure that everybody is doing their safe and sane fireworks or sending up explosive devices and airburst stuff. So the question is how many resources should we be using to patrol and address the situation on fireworks? And the Fireworks Accountability says the city of Gilroy's budget for 2021 is $57,000, not million. I think that's $57,000. I feel that there are $57 million, excuse me. And I feel that there's more than enough budget to allocate the funding to the police department, enabling them to recruit more officers. And if this is done, the police department will be in a much better position to address the use of illegal fireworks. As it was mentioned in the 621 city council meeting, they would be looking into forming a joint task force with the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department and adjacent city's law enforcement agency. Rebeca may know more about this point. So
number one, I'm not somebody who would advocate to be more heavily policed. I don't want a police officer at every corner. I don't want a police officer on every street, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
If I have bad breath or if I spit on the floor, like I don't need to be policed for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and
exactly.
So and we allocate just for that night, just for 4th of July night, it costs us $42,000 in the amount of police resources. So we have a hefty police budget. We do. It takes up a great amount of our city budget.
But 42,000 is like overtime for officers, or
for pay
and their cars and everything else it takes.
Yeah.
Okay.
In addition to the regular, what it would cost us for that day.
Yeah. That actually sounds pretty cheap.
Right, but that's the fee that comes from the fee that the Safe and Sane Fireworks pay, and and also for for fire and for the drones. Right.
Is there additional resources outside, like the county sheriff and things like that do the resources here too?
I don't know how much the sheriffs would expend on it in our areas that are out of city limits.
Okay.
I don't, but I know I'm right on the city limits, and I know they cruise around here pretty often. But countywide, they only have 6 officers on duty per night, right, in this area in South County. So I'm not sure how much of that would be spent just on fireworks stuff.
And how many officers did we have on duty besides the fire department? How many officers did we have on duty on July 4th?
It was more than half, I believe. It was a ton of officers. It's in the report. I don't remember the amount of officers. I remember the amount of money that we spent on it.
Okay.
So, but we do chalk up a great deal of overtime that night, and officers don't spend that with their families. They spend it,
right,
working,
playing whack-a-mole. Yeah, working.
Playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah. So,
Good. Go ahead.
So I honestly don't think that spending more money on resources, because that night officers are in unmarked patrol cars. They're on the motorcycles that are more stealth. Some are on foot, and some are using the drones. And in using drones, it's a slippery slope on our civil liberties. And I don't know what else they could do, right? Like parachute in. Like, what do we want them to do?
Right.
To do, it's not helping. It's not stemming it. We have to address it at the regional level with other resources too.
Right. That's why I made the analogy about the cop on every corner, because I'm just like, I mean, if you want the resources there, I mean, we're gonna have to hire a lot of police officers.
Right.
No, thank you.
We've got 2 subjects though too, right? We have the surge of fireworks on the 4th of July. Okay, that is one thing in itself.
Yeah.
But I think that the real problem is all of the fireworks that are outside of that, like 2 or 3 day period.
True.
And that's really something that needs to be addressed. It's not just a nuisance, like you said. It's it's and a public safety thing. It's just rude, right?
And a mental health issue for all our folks with PTSD, all of our vets, and others. Yeah. Something I also asked about, and our city admin is gonna follow up, is that there's an app called Nail 'em, right, where you report an address where you've seen it being done, and there is a way for law enforcement to enforce that, even if they don't witness it themselves. But that app is only available to us on the night of 4th of July because it's provided by TNT, the folks who provide the safe and sane fireworks. So if we're gonna spend money on something, it could be something inexpensive like that app, right? Because people will use it, but if we just use it in that 24-hour period, or even it's less than 24 hours, right? From sundown to sun up on the 4th, from the 4th to the 5th, it's not going to be very effective, right? It needs to be consistent. It needs to be something that our community can rely on to report. So other people offered like a bounty. Other cities are offering a bounty. If you report your neighbor and they're found to be using it, then they'll give you $200 or something. That one leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not sure I would support that. But I do support using something like the Nail 'em app, right? Because we don't want fighting between neighbors or retaliation.
Right.
And
we blow back. Way
for folks to be able to say, hey, I saw fireworks here, and the officers have enough time to investigate and see what's going on.
Okay. So next question is that I'm on the side of anti-prohibition. So I think I've made myself clear at the city council meeting. I made myself clear about that in a lot of podcasts that we've done so far, is that I think prohibition is a leading cause of the reason why we have some problems that we have in this nation, in our city, in our counties, in our state. The cost of prohibition, is it worth the escalation in illegal use? Because in my opinion, I think that prohibition will decrease the illegal use, or the use of illegal fireworks. I didn't want to use that phrase, but what do you think about the prohibition issue?
Prohibition of what's
fireworks
prohibited?
The prohibited fireworks.
Not including safe and sane.
Not including safe and sane, no.
Yeah. I mean,
I guess the question is do you think it'll escalate? If we would take the prohibition away, do you think it would escalate the use of those fireworks?
I don't think it would be a significant increase. No, because they're so readily available and inexpensive right now. If somebody really wants them, they'll get them and they'll use them, right? And because enforcement is so difficult, and the fines aren't too bad, and very few people you hear about getting fined. I think folks who are using them now would be pretty much the same amount as would use them if they were not prohibited. And that's what worked. I mean, the same thing happened with alcohol and other things, right, that were once prohibited. So once you remove the prohibition, the temptation is gone, right? And the thrill of it being illegal is gone. And you just get folks who thoroughly enjoy it, and we're doing it anyway when it was illegal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. Any prohibition throughout history has always been nothing more than good for the illegal activity.
Yeah. And marijuana should be on your next podcast, because Gilroy's.
I'm telling you what, when I talked to Mayor Blakely about this years ago when she was running, I asked her specifically about the marijuana issue, and we didn't come to an agreement on it. Yeah. But the situation is what it is, and I'm sure that she'll whatever with me. Anyway.
I mean, to ask, I tried to have some delivered right to my home when I couldn't drive. To San Jose or Hollister, and we can't even have any delivered. Like it really is ridiculous, and the amount of revenue that we're losing, that Hollister is collecting hand over
Absolutely.
And that Monterey County is collecting and didn't have any budget cuts, right? Like as a result of that revenue, we're missing out because we're Puritans apparently.
Right. So. Let's talk about the regional issue in Gilroy, because we do have regions in Gilroy. We have a huge metropolitan area where we have a lot of residents in one spot. And then we have the agricultural area that surrounds the east side of Gilroy on the other side of 101, south of Laurel. Is it Laurelwood? I think it's Laurelwood, where the new where Gavilan College is. And, and then out towards the East Foothills. Do you hear much from those citizens there about the fireworks, or is it just generally concentrated in the city proper?
I would folks who shared their addresses and such, and the folks who reached out to me personally, it's mostly folks in the heart of the community and the heart of the city. Yeah, and it used to be largely East Side, spectacular, but this year was spread all over town. All over town.
Gilroy High School was outdone.
Yeah.
Well, you can't even hear it.
Yeah. When I want to see the nice fireworks, I look towards the foothills in the west, right? I look over towards Christopher High.
Yeah. I remember traveling up to the foothills with my dad and our parents when we were younger, and we would go up Mount Hamilton and go and look down on the city to see the fireworks then. Beautiful. And that was where you usually go. I mean that was there was people lined up everywhere, and we're gonna ask one last question, and then we're gonna let you go, because we know that you're busy and you took a little bit of time out of your schedule here tonight, and we just appreciate you for doing that. I was concerned about, and this is basically a COVID-19 lockdown kind of situation question here. So the Gilroy High School, they had their fireworks display, and I know that we've been locked down for over a year. We started opening up and stuff like that, and I kind of attribute most of what happened last year and this year is to people being pent up and people just being tired and people just wanting to release. And you can see by the intro video that I did of just what was on my street. I ran up and down my street and I asked people that were out there doing fireworks. Not everybody was doing, I'd say about 50% people were doing safe and sane fireworks, and the other fireworks were shooting around. And I can only find 2 people out of probably the 20 people that I talked to that were actually against fireworks. But what they were kind of concerned about, because I told them about the podcast, I told them about you being on the podcast, is that they were concerned on why the public was shunned away from the regular parking spaces and stuff. And I don't know how many, because I've actually never been down to Gilroy. I've seen how they park, for fireworks, but why was that shut down again for a second year?
I wish I knew the question was coming, because then I would have had the answer for you. I don't. We had a very brief presentation from Parks and Rec about the show, and I'm not sure. I would say it was COVID related, because we are still doing vaccines at the high school site, and they had, it's blocked off. The main parking lot is flagged off in a certain way, right? So that people drive in a certain way and out a certain way and park a certain amount of places. That's what I would assume would be the reason. And probably proximity, right? We don't want to, as a city, we have a different level of responsibility in terms of continued COVID restrictions than the public does, or private entities do. So we still have to be taking precautions when there's large crowds. So.
Okay, then one super last question.
Okay.
When is City Council chambers going to open back up? Do you
September.
know that? September. Okay, yeah. September.
Yeah.
So
and it'll be a hybrid. It's going to be a hybrid model, so you'll still have the ability to call in, Zoom in, or be there in person. So. Yeah.
And while I got you here, one last comment that I have with the city council and the way that we kind of advertise where we're when the city council meetings, how you can get there, how you can contribute, how you can comment and things like that. I think that the email you send out is great, but not everybody knows that there's an email. I'm not sure where else we can get our information other than a mailer on when city council meets and public opinion is taken. I know public opinion is taken on many subjects, and I know, we have a budget and things like that. But one of the things that really concerns me is that people don't know that they can give a public opinion. And I think that if we had some kind of a mailer that went out, maybe a monthly mailer or a quarterly mailer or something about what kind of agenda issues are going to go on, and that the public is invited to speak out on these issues. I think that's one of the big issues that I have. Number one, my biggest issue is people just mouthing off on Facebook and Nextdoor and not coming to the city council meetings. But another one is get the information out to the public so we're able to comment and do that. And I'm going to do everything I can, Rebeca, to get all our citizens out there to the city council meetings and get involved in their community, because we are a community podcast. That is our first issue here, to be a community podcast, and then we go out on a national level, because basically we have the power here in Gilroy, we have the power here in all these cities to be able to shape your government. I mean, nowhere else. We can't do that on a national level. We can barely do it on a state level, but you could definitely make an impact on your local level. And I think it's very important. I think the citizens of Gilroy need to know that, and I think they need to be more informed by the city council on when these meetings are, how they're taking place. And if you can give us an idea on how we can get there, I'll post them in show notes for everybody to see, and then we will let you go for tonight.
Thank you for saying that, Bruce. No, thank you for saying that, and for your the energy and the efforts that you're putting towards it. I think there is more that we can do, especially given that so many people of our community are on the other side of the digital divide, right? Mm-hmm. And there's still so many blackout areas when it comes to internet connectivity, right? For months into the school year, the families over at the Ochoa camp off of Luchesa had no internet access.
Yes.
And that was the only way for them to access school. And so we have a lot of areas in our community that don't have reliable internet. And so we can't expect people to we can't expect to connect people in an equitable way till we fix that. But I love your idea about a mailer. I think you can go out with a water bill. I think we can send it out. We could send out our the agenda items that we have, quarterly, with the dates of our city council meetings, at the time, the Zoom connection, the address, all that like basic information. We could send those out in a mailer. I don't think it would,
that would be fantastic.
Cost a significant amount, and even if it did, it would be worth it, right?
Put it on the agenda.
I will.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Right before we go, I just wanted to say we got a comment from Susan Sheehan, and she said she wanted to make sure everyone knows that she does support the sale of safe and sane fireworks. She asked me to clarify that to everyone.
Got it. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Susan, for tuning in. And I know you couldn't be here. Tried to represent you as much as possible. And we want to thank Council Member Rebeca Armendariz.
There you go.
There we go. For being here. Thank you. You'll be hearing more from me, and you'll be hearing more from Doug. And we hope to have you back on the podcast whenever we have an issue that we need to talk about. And like I said, we thank you much, and we wish you well and for the rest of your term. And we just look forward to seeing you again on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that was Rebeca Armendariz, and she was our guest, our first city council guest, and I was so nervous. But man, what a great show! I mean, what a great show that was. Really, I mean, I cannot thank her enough for being there. This is a community-based show, guys. The Weathered Soul Podcast, the best podcast that you've never heard of, with me, aka the Weathered Soul, and DJ Dougie. We're going to be here every week. Or excuse me, at least twice a month. I don't want to say every week, at least twice a month, because we are community based. We need to get our content in order to be able to give you guys the best content that we can. We like to do our content that works out on a national level. And I didn't feel that I needed to bring in the national level about fireworks because there are certain states and there are certain places in the United States where all fireworks are legal, and they don't have these problems that we have here in Gilroy or in the state of California. I believe, I'm just going to make my monologue or my rebuttal here. I believe that the prohibition of fireworks is one of the major causes of why we have this situation. I can tell you just from my experience now that we have been listening to fireworks since probably last July 4th. I mean, almost on a daily basis. At night, something goes off, whether it be an M80 or whether it be a round of aerial blasts or things like that. It's a daily basis. Yeah. So you
can set your clock.
Yeah. So my experience is that, yes, it's a nuisance. It's true. Those people that are being rude and things like that think they're being smart and funny and everything like that, you guys should be ashamed of yourself. I mean, there's a place and there's a time for these things to go on. And I think that if the city would lift the prohibition and actually, I hate to say this because I hate permitting or anything, but give you some kind of a permit or a license if you want to have a aerial display or something like that. I mean, I'm not against that. I mean, I'm actually against the permitting, but I think that at least you should make a public notice that this is going to go on. Just like, when I do my concerts here, in Cassidy McGee for the Night of the Garden concert series, I often go on Nextdoor and I go on Facebook and I let my neighbors know that, hey, look, I'm having live music in my backyard. If it seeps into your property line or something like that, I'm sorry. We're going to abide by the ordinances that are set by Gilroy, California, and that the live music and the chatter will be down at X PM at night, so everybody can get their sleep. So that is my rebuttal to the whole fireworks issue, and I'm going to leave it over to Dougie to give his side of the rebuttal.
Well, can I rebut your rebuttal?
You can rebut my rebuttal all you want. You often rebut my rebuttals.
The problem with the getting rid of the what I would call unconstitutional prohibition on fireworks is the liability issue. So if it was to be permitted, you would have to have some sort of guarantee of liability for any damages done. You know, so say a spark hits somebody's house or a tree catches on fire and burns down the town, something like that. So that would make it almost cost prohibitive. So once again, it'd be almost like a prohibition on the fireworks. But one thing I did want to say is, the state of California does have, laws on the books about fireworks, and Cal Fire has, their recommended penalties, and what they basically say is, including packaging, like up to 25 pounds is $500 to $1,000 fine and up to 1 year in county jail or prison. You go all the way up to 1,000 pounds, and it's still only $1,000 fine or $5,000 fine and a year in jail. 1,000 pounds of fireworks. I mean, that's a pickup truck full. Yeah, and it's still that's only $1,000 to a $5,000 fine and maximum 1 year in prison. Not prison. I'm sorry, county jail.
Right.
Which is a lot different than prison.
Yeah.
So I guess the penalties in some people's judgment are fine, but obviously in other people's judgment are not nearly severe enough. And that brings up the whole thing again. Once again, like we always said, any prohibition on anything only breeds a black market or do-it-yourselfers.
Absolutely.
There would be fireworks.
Absolutely.
If we banned all fireworks and we had a machine that came through and vacuumed them all up right out of people's trunks of their cars and got rid of every single one of them, people would be making fireworks in their basements and lighting them off on the 4th of July.
Yes. Yeah,
period.
I believe that. Yeah, period. I mean, you're not going to do it. And I think the major thing about why people are doing it right now is because it's a no to do it. And I think that's one of the things that, I mean, you go back into the 20s and 30s when we had prohibition on alcohol. What happened? The first thing that happened was the black market. The second thing that happened was the speakeasies. And the biggest contributors of all of those were the politicians that passed the prohibition laws. So, they were caught many times in these establishments and bootlegging their own alcohol. So I mean, prohibition just to me leads to corruption, and it also leads to just people just going to do it because we're not supposed to do it, and that's
it's like drug dealers lobbying for stronger drug laws to keep themselves in business.
Right, exactly. Right? Well, that's exactly kind of how it is. You lobby yourself into a no competition type situation, and that's how we are. So I just want to thank you guys for actually being here, man. And we have I want this podcast to grow. So I'm asking you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and you can find out. We've got many podcasts. We got the Weathered Soul podcast here. I got the Morning Drive with Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul, which is my little 5 to 10 minute blurb that I do every morning on YouTube and Facebook. I've got In the Pit of My Stomach, which is my probiotic and plant-based supplement business. I just love talking about that and talking about fitness and wellness. And I just think that all these things that are attributed to podcasting these days are the way that you're getting your information today. If you're listening to CNN, faux news or MSNBC, you're getting fed an agenda, and we want to take that agenda away. We want to put that agenda back into the citizens' hands, where we can talk about pros and cons, where we can disagree about things back and forth, because me and Dougie here, DJ Dougie, we don't agree on everything, and we do have some heated conversations, but we come away every time shaking hands, and we break bread together, and we're able to get along in this life. And we just had a comment that says, I disagree. Why does Morgan Hill have no fireworks problems? I would disagree, and I will talk to some of my friends and see if they had a war zone over there also. So anyway,
I think everybody has firework problems.
I think everybody has a fireworks problem.
Yeah.
But you can get us on our audio podcast. You guys are getting a special tonight if you go to the audio podcast and listen to the Weathered Soul podcast on anchor.fm/the Weathered Soul podcast. Michael Gaither is my featured guest as a little song that he wants to put on, because anchor.fm lets me give you music from Spotify, which is Anchor's station, and they let me play any record I want. And I'm part of the music scene down here in Gilroy. My band, the Weathered Souls, we play around every so often. A lot of times we play solo. A lot of times we just play by ourselves. But we're going to go ahead and feature Michael Gaither for you guys on the audio side at the end of our podcast. So go listen to us on anchor.fm/the Weathered Soul podcast, or you can get us on any of your podcatchers. And then if you would like to be a guest, a sponsor, and we will do a live appearance at your establishment in Gilroy, Morgan Hill, in the South County area, please drop us an email at info@weatheredsoul.com, and we would be more than happy to try to schedule something that fits your availability. We love guests for all kinds of situations, whether you be musical, whether you be community minded. We want you on here, and we're always looking for sponsors to take on to this podcast. Also, you can get us on a couple of places. You can go to the Weathered Soul podcast Facebook page. Just go up here to your little search box right here and type in the Weathered Soul podcast. It'll bring you to the AKA Weathered Soul podcast page, where you can be a part of the group, and we can go to the WSLN Weathered Soul Liberty Network, where you can get all of our podcasts and all of the morning drives and the pit of my stomachs, my Bruce for Liberty, my morning drive. You can get all that there. And of course, you can always go to anchor.fm and get the Weathered Soul podcast there, or your favorite podcatcher. And Dougie, you are the best in the world at being a co-host. Thank you for, chiming in with your important questions. I'm sure that Rebecca did her best, and I know that she's, to me, yeah. I think that she's a very good city council woman. I've been following her for a while. She's one of the ones that is actually stepping up for civil liberties and stuff like that.
She seems very level-headed.
And we got to have a mixture of all kinds of things when we're talking about governments and we're talking about city government. And you all need to be involved. Every citizen, every person that's listening to this podcast needs to be involved in their city, whether you're listening nationally, whether you're listening in some other country, because we have other people that are living in other countries, or whether you're just living here in Gilroy or in Santa Clara County or in the state. Get involved with your city council, with your school boards, because lots of people can change a lot of things. And when you change a lot of things in your city government, it starts bleeding out around the county, and then it starts bleeding out around the state, and then you change the national scene, and that's the way we do it. Dougie, I'm going to let you go for the last little part of this, and then I'm going to give you a goodbye.
In a true democracy, everybody has a say.
Absolutely.
You may not get your way, but you have a say. If you don't say it, you're not participating in democracy.
That's right.
Love you all.
That's right, man. Say good night, Dougie.
Good night, Dougie.
And we want to thank you for watching the Weathered Soul podcast. Please share this episode with a friend and subscribe to our YouTube page, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.